Welcome to the Ambitious Africans podcast. This is your host, Secho, and I hope you've had an amazing week so far. My week has been really good. I had a few errands. I had to do some private study and I did some work as well. These are like personal projects. I helped out doing some work for a few friends as well. It was quite an interesting week, and I hope yours has also been so good. On today's episode, I want to bring an end to the conversations we've been having about old traditions, choosing work options, balancing rest and enoughness, right? I want to end the series with this episode, and the the conversation I want to really have in this particular episode is trying to tie all these things together but bring it full circle. If you haven't listened to all those episodes, I encourage you to go through. I'll put their links in the show notes. I'll encourage you to go through them and let me know your thoughts. But obviously, after you're done, you can come to this one and let's have that conversation. Now, we first started the episode talking about, and I was asking in that previous episode if it was time to retire the previous traditions our forefathers, foremothers, forebears had passed on to us, and if it was time to build new traditions, and if we were going to build those new traditions, where were we going to begin? And then I went into choosing work options. When I recorded that episode, I recorded it with the idea of most of us use work as one of the ways to improve our lives and to fix generational challenges. So, for example, if you grew up in poverty or you grew up in some form of dysfunction, as you're building your life, work becomes a big part of how you want your life to look like, because by the work you do, you can make financial decisions that can help you make better life choices. So work is a big part of that entire response to those old traditions, and that was why I recorded that episode. And then the last time I also talked about how it was important to think about rest and balance, and enough is enough. And the reason, I think I also missed mentioning that in that episode, mentioning the reason for my recording that episode specifically was to highlight the dangers of going overboard if we are blindly seeking to rectify generational challenges or generational issues through work and not do it in a way that is balanced, because you don't want to solve a problem and create a new one in its place. So that was the whole context of that episode. It was such an amazing episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was so comforting and validating. And so today I'm going to have an open conversation. I never record these episodes with a script in mind. I really pour from my heart and I think out loud. And I really am appreciative of the fact that you bear with me, you bear with my thoughts in this way, and you stick around. And so, thank you so much for supporting this channel and this entire conversation and all the series of topics we've had over the last couple of episodes. If you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do that as well. Today's episode, I'm going to go straight right in now that I have set the stage, is to talk about having a difficult conversation with ourselves as young, ambitious Africans. What do you mean by that, Secho? Just think about it. We need to have I think the first and foremost, this is totally off tangent, but I feel like the whole world needs to have a conversation with itself. Because a lot has happened, like a lot has happened, like previous generations, and it's also, well, actually it's not off tangent, it's really in within context. A lot has happened from previous generations. We haven't fully unpacked that. And as we, this generation, are becoming so fixated to fixing generational challenges and righting those wrongs, we're all doing it in different pockets in our own personal lives, communities, with friends, with families. But I think we need to have like a national project like that, a national personal development project like that, and have something similar for the continental all the way to global. Like we need to have a conversation. Like something happened, a few things happened in the past that should not have happened. We need to have a conversation. Those who have to make reparations, make the reparations. Those who have to apologize, apologize, and let's make peace. I think somebody should appoint me as UN General Secretary. That would be really nice. I'm like, guys. Anyway, off tangent, like I said. But I feel like we genuinely need to have a conversation with ourselves and see how we can tie in all the different things that we've talked about in this series. First and foremost, retiring old traditions. In that episode, when I was talking about us bearing the responsibility of creating new traditions, it was from the point of if we really want to see change, if we really want to do things better, we need to realize the context within which those problems were formed and create the solutions holistically with the future in mind and not necessarily the past. So let's say, for example, we talk about poverty. I like talking really about poverty. Let's say you grew up you grew up poor, you grew up disadvantaged, and you want to build a better life. So you think about it. The way to do it is pursue a career that pays me the most money so that I can solve this poverty issue that I'm seeing in my family. Good idea. But you have to do it asking yourself a few questions. Am I solving this poverty issue wholly because I think it's only a poverty issue, or there is really more to this than I know? Am I considering other things that facilitate this poverty thinking? Are there other things that facilitate this level of thinking? And what are some of those habits and attitudes I've inherited consciously or unconsciously that is making it impossible for me to solve this poverty issue? And as I'm solving it, am I replacing that solution? Am I replacing that problem with another problem, such as unhealthy attachment to making money? So because you're so poor, you go the full extreme of wanting to solve that by saying you have this very strong attachment to money. Like money is the only solution you want. You always think everything is about money. When they call your name, money. When they sneeze around you, money. When you're making career decisions, money. If the person you want to marry, money. Everything is money just because of one problem you encountered, which is poverty. And so you forget to even fix all the other attitudinal issues, character issues. You forget, you deprioritize all those things and now focus on money. And I think that is what our societies globally have been doing. So let's say, for example, Africa and its decolonization of itself. We say we don't want to be like white people. We don't want to be colonized by white people. And so we choose solutions that we don't want to be colonized by white people, or we are poor. Let me use this example better. We say we are underdeveloped, right? The question is, how are we even defining that underdevelopment? We are defining that underdevelopment by using European or Western standards. So we tell ourselves, we underdeveloped because we don't have skyscrapers. We underdeveloped because we don't have some fast food chains in Africa. We underdeveloped because we don't we don't have certain technologies. But do we need those? Do we need all those things to feel developed? Or do we actually need to solve our own problems in a way that fits our own preferences and priorities? Because if we want to fix our problems to fit our own like priorities, it would look like saying, oh, we want to really create a society here that empowers every single African to believe in themselves, to go do the best work they can, to live their full life potential. Not because they want to compete on any, like they don't want to compete, they just want to be themselves as human beings. They want to live their full life experience without comparing or competing with anybody. That's the kind of life we want to build for our young, not our young people, ourselves as Africans. So what does that mean? It means that one, let's say for example, we value taking care of the earth. We value sustainability. So we embed that in how we live. It doesn't mean we are building skyscrapers and planting trees on top of it. Is that a shade? I think it is. No, but if we look at our the way our forebears were building, that was sustainability. It made sense. It's like actually we shouldn't be building like this. Let's be building the way our parents and our forefathers were building because it makes sense for our climate. We are not going to be competing with skyscrapers. We don't need skyscrapers to be considered developed. We don't even want to even be in the development competition. We want to live our lives with the best life quality for our people. And the best way to do this is the one we have decided for ourselves, not in comparison with other people, but genuinely for ourselves because it works for us for our own happiness. And in that context, interrogate all the other ones that do not work, all the ones that do not fit this vision, this, negative tribalistic conversations and things like that. You see the kind of analogy I'm trying to make. Does it make sense? Are we making are we solving the personal problems we have within a genuine objective consideration of what we genuinely want for ourselves in a way that gives us a pathway to being the best version of ourselves God has created us to be? Or are we looking to the left and right to be seeing who 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 looks happy online so that I can fashion my anti-poverty projects like this, only to realize that you're pursuing a form of wealth creation that steals joy from your soul because you want to solve this poverty issue. And so we need to first and foremost have that conversation with ourselves and now be very picky, which is the point too I want to make. We need to be very picky with the solutions we are borrowing from people. And this is where I say it's not bad to look to another person to see how they are navigating their lives or maneuvering the different complexities of their lives. Even when you come on to this podcast and listen to me share all these different ideas, I don't want you to see them as this is the way you have to live your life, or this is the way you need to live or design your life in order to succeed. Everything is a suggestion. Everything in this life is a suggestion. When you see people living a particular life, it's a suggestion of how you can live yours. Everything is a suggestion. And so being picky with some of these solutions is knowing exactly where you want to go for yourself, not based on comparison, for yourself, and picking and being very picky. Be very investigative, be very skeptical about people's definitions of success in your pursuit of ambition. Because if you don't do that, you are going to end up unhappy like they are now. You see what I mean? This is my British accent coming. You see what I mean? The last time I was like, when did I start talking like this? It is well. But do you see what I mean though? So we need to scale back our rush to succeed, our eagerness to run in the opposite direction of our problems, to scale back and ask ourselves, do I even want to go that direction? I know that direction seems to have what I want, but is that the only way to get there, or can I find my own way to get that thing at the end? Because surely it's just a suggestion. I can make my own path to get the same things without sacrificing the other things they might have sacrificed following that direction. And that is where we need to be picky. And this perspective on being picky with borrowing people's solutions, creating our own solutions, and all these things, they pertain to past ways our forefathers, foremothers have been doing this. Present ways we this current generation do it, and future ways people are telling us online to do it. Like you have to use it like use it like a knife to cut through everything. To cut through everything. And that's when you realize that some of the things that we consider as traditions that we are so passionate and so attached to, they were formed as a response to survival mode. They were traumatic responses. They are responses to trauma, but you don't know. And so because it's from the past, and we are so nostalgic, we hold on to that past without being picky and asking ourselves, but this is actually traumatic. Like why are we living like this? I we extend grace to the people who lived that way because they lived in systems that was the only way they could survive, especially being black and being outside and living outside the continent. Like they had to do certain things. They had to train their children in a certain way. They had to pass on some characters and attitudes in a certain way just so their children could survive that system. Not necessarily their children could thrive in those systems, but just so they can survive. And that was all they could. That's all they needed. Like, and even with sexism, the way we raise our women, we tell women to behave in a particular way because and genuinely because our parents genuinely want us to survive in this system. Because maybe they've tried to change the system. The system isn't working. Like it's not changing. It's not budging. It's not listening. So now they shrink themselves to find other ways to survive within it. And because we are raised with it, we become so nostalgic to those systems that we forget to interrogate and ask, what was the context of this? I don't need to fight for survival now. I need to thrive. And so I can value how this was designed. However, it's time to build new traditions and to have that reflect in the kind of work I choose to do, in the kind of life I choose to live, in the kind of aspirations I choose to have. Because the fact that our parents did those things, sets those traditions as a way, sometimes as a way to protect us, sometimes as a way to keep us in check, sometimes as a way to be able to survive and navigate this very wicked world to the best of their knowledge, out of love or out of good intention. Regardless of all of that, it's important to always make sure that they fit within context. They fit within context. Yeah. So that's it. The third point I also want to talk about in closing out this episode is you know the concept of enough is enough, or knowing the right amount. I think for my own self, I think one of the lessons I'm unpacking is asking, actually, do I want to be a billionaire? Should I be aspiring to be a billionaire? Like, is that genuinely what I want? Not because there's nothing wrong with being a billionaire, but it's like the kind of joy and love I want in my life. Do I need to be a billionaire to have it? If I have it as 1,000 day, 1,000 day, that's funny. If I have it as 1,000 day, ah, it's okay. Is it not okay? I feel like you can have it as 1,000 day. You can have it as 100 day. You can have it as a millionaire. You can also have it as a billionaire. The point is, it's not about the how much of the money you have. It's fine. It's actually even realizing you have it. And that is where the issue of balance and giving balance a fair pursuit comes in, because every single time we give people advice, we say it can be XYZ, but balance. Too much of everything is bad, right? But we don't do the work to really ask ourselves, huh, if X and Y can be too much. And balance is the way. Actually, let me follow that balance advice and see what does that really look like practically to go the balance route. Trust me, we always use balance to conclude the advice, but we don't use it to begin the conversation. Like, how do you actually pursue balance in practical terms? Does it mean that you, and because we're talking about careers now, does it mean that you can come to a point where you you value your free time more than salary, so you decide to take a lower paying job? Like, sometimes it's unthinkable if you're in survival mode to think about these things. But when you're exploring those kind of things, and these are conversations I have with myself, like, what does balance really mean in this situation? What does balance really mean? What would balance look like? Oh, okay, maybe balance would look like actually listening to the other person, listening to my own side, and then telling the person, let's work in finding the middle ground together and actually doing the work to implement that middle ground. That could look like balance. Like, actually giving balance a fair pursuit is where we also need to have those conversations. So these have been my reflections on really how we want to navigate our ambitions as Africans. I think that for us as Africans, our approach has always been, if this is the challenge, you run towards the opposite direction. And we don't interrogate really what does the opposite direction entail. It's like, for example, this development analogy, like we need to develop, like everybody everywhere needs to look like New York to feel and look developed. But maybe we don't need that. Maybe we don't need that. Maybe we don't need New York. Let New York be New York, and let Accra be Accra. Let Mombasa be Mombasa. Let Maputo be Maputo. Let's value the difference and enjoy it. Like, I will come visit, you can visit. Like, let's enjoy the difference and the diversity that life brings. But I hope this entire episode, like I said, this entire reflection ties everything closely together for you as you go pursuing your own ambitions. And I think the way to achieve that balance in the spirit of being practical is listening to everything that we've said and discussed in this episode over these last couple of episodes as well, and going to sit down with yourself and saying, as for me, I know this is the world's solution to poverty, and these are the trade-offs they come with. How do I know? Because I have so many examples to see. I don't want that. Can I find somebody else who is achieving prosperity, joy, and all these good things? Like, they have a good mix of the fine things of life, but also the fun things of life without over attachment to material things, like those things. Like, can I also see other suggestions? Because clearly this one is a suggestion. There's one point that has come to mind that I want to share, and it's from the perspective of a marketer. As a marketer, well, there's one thing I would tell you. We marketers, and I'm not saying professional marketers, anybody who's trying to sell you an idea, a product, or a service, or an experience, anybody who's trying to sell you anything, I'm not saying selling in a way like to extract money from you. Even me sharing this with you is me selling a way of life or selling a perspective to you. Anybody who is attempting to sell or convince you to do something or believe something comes with a bit of passion with it. And so that passion can make it seem like that is the only way to succeed. If you don't follow that way, you will succeed. It's not true. Like, be able to remove the passion and excitement and the gravitas they come along with and take the substance. Like, okay, now, like, okay, it's a nice suggestion. I don't know how it fits into the kind of life I want to build. Like, that would be a good exercise to also have. We marketers, it's part of the job. If we don't come with a lot of gravitas, conviction, and all those things, we don't dress a certain way, speak a certain way, project in a certain way, you won't budge, you won't move, right? But don't misconstrue that as the veracity of that suggestion. Misconstrue that as efficacious. If that's like, don't mistaken that as the answer, the one-stop answer. Everything is subjective. Everything is suggestive as well. So this is your own time to take all those suggestions you received and make your own decisions. Thank you so much for joining me in this one. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. I'm now a baby YouTuber. So please don't forget to do all those things. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.